I don't, I can't say.
Well, I was just wondering, what is your argument that, I'm assuming that you would like to keep the law as it is?
Actually, well, let me give you one. I represent a young man. Actually, I represent the mother of the young man who was in Western Maryland in prison. And when he was, the gangs were coming after him because they thought he was a member of a wrong gang. They moved him to Eastern Shore, and they put him in a prison. And the man they put in the cell with him had strangled the first man that was in the cell. Was told he's crazy, don't put him in another cell. They put him in the second cell, and he strangled the second guy, but he lived. Then they put him in with this 19 or 20-year-old who was due to get out in a couple months, and he strangled and killed him. Now that man's killed 2 people while in prison. What do you want to do with him? Risk more guards, more people?
Maximum security?
He was supposed to be in maximum security. He's supposed to be in a cell alone
He's supposed to be in cell.
after he killed the first person. So there are some people who are incorrigible. There are some people who can't be locked up. How many more mothers do I got to go to and tell them, I'm sorry, everything that was done wrong. Your son should be alive today. Yes, he should be coming home. But the state thinks that we can put these people who are going to continue to kill because there's no penalty. Do you think that the man who sexually molests the child and has the child will be more willing to leave the child alone if he thinks that there's no penalty whatsoever, but if he kills the child,
Well, if he's
he
in
might
jail,
get,
if he's in jail,
No,
he's not going to have
I'm
access.
not talking
to
about if he's in jail. If he's got the child and he says, if this child tells who I am, I could get the death penalty, or I could go to jail forever. I need to kill the witness. Nobody's going to hurt me. Nobody's going to put me away. I just go to jail forever. So is it better to get rid of the witness? I mean, I don't know what goes through the mind. I'm a criminal defense attorney also. And so, and this is good. It's good to, if you're going to be on judiciary, to know these sides, to know what's real life and what's out there and what's going on. Because all too often, the people walk in with lofty ideals, and they're not dealing with the real world situation and what's out there. And so my experience of why we need a death penalty is, I believe it is a deterrent. And I also believe that in my heart, when I do a bill and I look at it and say, if my child was one driving a car and was drunk and went over the curb, how would I want my child punished? Then I put my child on the curb and say, if somebody else was driving a car and hit my child, how would I want them punished? Somewhere in the middle lies where the right decision is. And what I have to look at is say that some people think that the government taking over and punishing the person who killed their loved one is the right thing. If we take away that punishment, that vengeance, do they then say, I'm going to seek that vengeance on my own? We want the state to be the sole person who seeks vengeance. And I know you may disagree and others may disagree, but where the people I talk to, and the people there are some who say that if you do that to my family, I'm going to respond.
But there are also families of people who've been murdered who say, don't put us through the agony of a 15, 20-year process, through the appellate process and so on.
Then make the death penalty shorter.
But then you're going to have more likely to have innocent people executed.
Name one that's been executed in
Well,
Maryland.
because of this process.
Name one in Maryland that's been executed.
Well, Maryland really uses it, but there have been a lot of DNA exonerations just in the last 10 years.
The system works. Isn't that great? The system works. They all got out. They all got exonerated, and most of them weren't on death row when it happened.
Well, I mean, it's pretty hard with DNA tests. I mean, probably a situation where people have been executed and you haven't been able to get DNA tests. I mean, if there's even that possibility there, how do you respond to that? I mean, do you think that every single person who's been put to death actually, was the person who deserved it?
I'm asking you in Maryland, show me one who has been put to death by the state of Maryland in recent times in the last 100 years that you could say was an innocent man or woman. It hasn't happened. Our system works.
Maryland used it since like the 90s. I think it was like the last time. Am I right?
Now, it used to be that you take them out and give them a firing squad.
Well, they used to be lynched too. And Justice Bob Herbert in the Times today would argue that our current system, and I don't know if Justice Stevens in his article in the New York Review of Books that's just out goes quite this far. I wouldn't be critical of him if he did. I would support him. Is that there's such a racial disparity that the key factor in the capital cases is the victim is white and the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, is a person of color.
And we would disagree that there is a racial disparity. We say that the way that the prosecutor in Baltimore City did not pursue the death penalty, yet you have in Baltimore County, every single person who commits the murder, who is eligible, was pursued.
But
You're
that's
more
not the
likely-
case just in, if this were only Maryland where that disparity existed, that argument carries weight, may carry some weight, but this was the case in Furman v. Georgia, and it's consistently the case throughout the country.
I
San
beg to
Diego
differ.
to the
I
contrary.
beg to differ that the statistics would show that there is a disparity in the death penalty. I think the disparity comes in the way that we look at the application of the death penalty.